So over the weekend, I wasn't spending lots of time on social media. My sister's funeral was on Saturday in Houston, and we had a beautiful homegoing service for Kenya Martin Williams. And so Monday, I was looking at a couple of things, and then spent lots of time with family. And so folks it kept talking about this Ice Cube video, and people kept saying that Ice Cube was telling people not to vote. So I said, okay, tell my team, pull a video so I can understand what the hell folks are talking about. The first thing is this here. This is not a new video. Earlier today, his son, O'Shea Jackson Jr., posted a tweet where he said, why y'all going off about a 4-year-old video? I'm trying to find his tweet so I can show it to you. And I was just, here it is right here. He says, here I'm thinking my dad said something new, and y'all are talking about a video from 4 years ago. Why does Ice Cube only come around during election years? You're looking at a video from 4 years ago. I can't believe this. I'm tweeting about Raw, and then I'm out. So then I said, I'll be addressing the video tonight. Then O'Shea goes, you'll be addressing a video from 4 years ago tonight? Good Lord, SMH. Yes, I am O'Shea Jackson Jr. So allow me to explain after we play the video. Roll it.
Yo, what's up? This your homie Ice Cube. Here to talk to my black folks. You know, I just want to be straight up because there's a lot of messages going out about this election. First and foremost, anybody telling you that you gotta vote, that it's your duty, that you have to exercise the right, and that people died for you to vote. For one, people did die, but nobody walked out their house to go die for you to vote. They were killed by probably some racists that don't want to see us get anything. But I'm saying that to say this. Be skeptical of anybody telling you to vote and not telling you to ask for anything, or to tell you to just vote and not to get anything for your vote. That's not how it works. That's not the process. You don't vote just to vote. You vote because you're getting something, or your community is getting something. So everybody that's telling you that, man, look at them and say, what are you getting? Because people that just want you to vote and not ask for nothing, people that's in power that want you to vote but don't want you to get anything, or not asking for you to get anything economically, they suspect, straight up. Because a lot of people been in place for a long time and we ain't got shit. That shit gonna end. That shit gonna end. We gonna get what we supposed to get. Period. And anybody asking you not to ask, I wouldn't listen to them. Because that's the process. Every community asks for what they want. And we gonna do the same goddamn thing.
So there were a lot of people who were saying that Ice Cube told people not to vote. One, that's not true. You heard the video yourself. He didn't actually say, do not vote. So that was just fundamentally flawed. When he said that no one was killed just walking out of their house to vote, actually Ice Cube is wrong. In fact, go to my iPad. He's right that there were racist white folks who did kill people, but Harry T. and Harriet Moore, two NAACP activists, their home was bombed in Florida in 1951 by KKK members. There is now a memorial to them where their home stood in Sanford, Florida. I actually visited the memorial. I'll find the videos on my phone. I actually visited that location after reading a book, and it talked about them, and I was obviously blown away when I did. So the reality is, I mean, Jimmy Lee Jackson was killed in a night march in Selma that dealt with the issue of getting the right to vote. So people have been killed. Present day, there have been black activists who have been harassed. We have a sister from Tennessee on who was facing prison, actually went to jail, was facing time because they said she registered illegally. You got Crystal Mason down in Texas who's still being harassed more than 7 years later by Tarrant County DA. And so those things do happen. But this is where I think people are also wrong in terms of their criticism of Ice Cube. The reality is politics is about making demands of an elected official and then pushing them to actually make it happen once they win. So when he says that, well, we've had people that bunch a long time and our community ain't got jack. Well, first of all, that's also wrong. It's just fundamentally wrong. Now, you could say we haven't gotten enough, which then means you have to then mobilize and organize to get it. Now, I'll tell y'all, I told Ice Cube personally 4 years ago when he had his contract with Black America, I said, bruh, they're not gonna meet with you just because you're Ice Cube. I said, you just can't go, well, I'm Ice Cube, y'all meet with me. I said, you need to build a coalition. You need to have individuals, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people, 100,000 people who you've registered to vote. So now all of a sudden, when you come to the table, you've now got folk behind you, and it's not just you. I said that to him. When Diddy did that interview with the model Naomi Campbell, and he was like, we're gonna withhold our vote. I told Diddy the same thing. I said, just because you Diddy, you just don't jump out here and say, I said, no, you have to actually build something. So when you come to the table and you say, 50,000 people have signed up on my website, I'm communicating with, politicians respond because that's votes. That's numbers. So I said it directly to Diddy and Ice Cube. So when Ice Cube talks about how we must be making demands, we should. I forgot to bring it in, but Randall Robinson, in his book, The Debt, talked about a conversation with Maynard Jackson, who was the mayor of Atlanta. And they talked about establishing essentially a black agenda, putting it on a card that every black person could place in their wallet. And then when a politician came to a church or community center or wherever, black folks could pull that card out. Where do you stand on this? 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 And make determinations. So for all the people who were like, oh my God, he's wrong. Guys, what he said is what I've been saying on this show. And what I've been saying on this show is, yes, you should be making demands. The problem is when folks say, well, if you can't give it to me now, I'm not voting. A person can't give you anything until they actually are in power. And then once they're in power, you then have to also look at what's the condition. So if you voted for one person for the school board and they got 9 members of the school board and 8 folk vote against, you can't get what you want just because you voted for that one person. You got to sit here and say, now, how do we mobilize and organize to get the other 4 folk elected so we can have a majority of the 5? City council. If you got 12 people in the city council, you're going to need 7 votes. So you can't just vote for your city council member, ain't gonna do it. So right now, the Harris campaign announced $35 million they're gonna be giving to House Democrats and the Senate. Why? Because it's not as if she wins, she needs Democrats in control of the United States Senate in order for her to appoint federal judges, to get bills through. She needs Democrats in control of the House, otherwise Republicans are stopping her agenda. That's collective politics. And so people need to understand, and I think people need to back off this whole deal. Man, Cuba's full of shit. No, what he's saying, he's actually right. What I have been arguing for years is that one of the greatest problems that we have in our community is we spend massive amounts of time and energy motivating, calling, organizing for folks for November 5th. Man, we focus on souls to the polls. We're focused on early voting. We're focused on election day. Then November 6th, we go, oh, Lord, I'm tired. We're ecstatic if our candidate won. Then we're disappointed if they lost. But here's the problem. November 6th should be a rest day. November 7th, you go back to work. Because when the election is over, and y'all have heard me say this, the election is the end of one process, it's the beginning of another. Which means that if Vice President Kamala Harris and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz prevail in November, they now have a transition period. While they are working on the transition period, we should be working on what are going to be our priorities. I told y'all in the first 90 days when Obama was president, the LGBT community presented him with a 54-page agenda. Black organizations did not, as a collective, come together until Obama was elected in his second term. It was 5 years later. And some of y'all may say, yeah, it was at the hotel across the street. I was there at the Capitol Hilton. And I sat there and I was like, it took 5 years. Then it took them 9 months to put the paperwork together to present the agenda. We were literally almost 6 years in. Hell, he only had 2 left. So, what should be happening right now? Even with a 4-year-old video. So I'll say this to Ice Cube, O'Shea Jackson Sr., and his son, O'Shea Jackson Jr. As opposed to you, Ice Cube, being upset because people criticize you for meeting with, you didn't meet with Trump. You met with Jared and some other folk at a hotel, not at the White House. As opposed to being mad about that, build your coalition. Build it. You have people going to your website signing up for the Black Agenda. Okay, Ice Cube, how many people signed up? Build that list. And so now, if Vice President wins, you now can come to the table with an army of folks behind you. But I'm not just talking also to Ice Cube. I'm talking to every single person who's listening or who's talking. The question for you is, what y'all doing? How are you mobilizing and organizing in Charlotte, in Houston, in Jackson, Mississippi, in Tallahassee? How are you mobilizing in Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, urban, rural? How are you mobilizing? How are you aligning with other people to be able to then get what it is that you need? Not just from the vice president, because let me be real clear. Vice President Harris, if she becomes president, all she can do is propose ideas. Anything dealing with money, per the Constitution, has to start in the House. Then it moves to the Senate. And then if the House passes a bill that's separate from the Senate bill, then they got to go to committee to then sort it all out. And then once they got to go to committee, they got to vote it again on the compromise in the House, then in the Senate. Then if it gets passed, it goes to the president to sign. That's schoolhouse rock. That's basic. But the issues that you might care about are not solely on the federal level. We just talked about the California Legislative Black Caucus and Senator Stephen Bradford's bears reparations. That's a state issue. All these people saying this is going to come back on Kamala Harris. No, it's not. Vice President Kamala Harris ain't got jack to do with those bills in California. Y'all should be dealing with the Black Caucus of California. So then, maybe it's not the state level. Maybe what you care about is impacted by the county, by the city, by the DA, by the water district, by the school board. That means that you have got to be mobilized and organized and pushing those folks, which means folk watching and listening. And again, if you heard what Q was talking about, you can't be sitting on your ass and going, well, I voted, did my job. I've been a city hall reporter. I've been a county government reporter. I went to the state capitol with my mama when she was one of the 3 citywide co-chairs for the Metropolitan Organization in Houston, an interfaith organization. I remember being on the bus with her early in the damn morning on the weekend, traveling to Austin for rallies. That's mobilization, organization trying to advance your issue. So here's what I desire. I desire for us to stop being emotional on social media. What I want us to begin to be far more strategic. I want us to say, what are the things that I care about? And then go, okay, so if I care about that issue, how is the person running for president, U.S. Senator, member of Congress, governor, state rep, state senator, city council, county government, school board, where do they fall when it comes to that issue? That's now where I have to turn my attention. So if I care about charter schools and school choice, I then got to say, okay, is this a state issue or do I have to deal with the local school district? I now have to know how do I marshal my forces and pointing there. Let me give you one last point before I go to my panel. And that is this here. If you are talking about mobilizing and organizing, you got to collect data. I can't stand marches and protests where you don't know who the hell shows up. Folk coming with signs and marching and preaching and yelling. Who are you? If you're not collecting addresses and phone numbers and emails, social media accounts, how then can I reach you when I need you when the march is over to come back to go to the city council chamber or the county government chamber or the state legislature or the Congress? So again, let's stop sitting here acting a fool, going crazy, oh my God, cue this, cue that, and step back and go, okay, what did he say? And now, how do we now, when the election is over, first of all, make demands of an elected official while they are running, and then if they win, then hold them accountable to what they promised they were going to do if they won, and then if they then don't do that, then you oppose them when the next election comes around. That's where we must be. And there are people out there doing that. I grew up with 2 of those people. My parents, dad's 77, mom's 76, she'll be 77 in November. I've seen it up close and personal, literally in the house. So what I am describing to you is not a theoretical exercise. I'm literally describing to you what I personally witnessed and what I have done as somebody testifying before the Houston City Council. I think I was in the 10th grade. As somebody testifying at school board meetings. These things work. But these things only work if you do the work. And they don't work if you stay at home and yell and complain about what we ain't got, how ain't nothing changed, and you can't even actually name who your city council member is. And you can't even name who your state representative is and who your state senator is. and who your member of Congress. I have actually run into black people in multiple states, and they can't even tell me who their United States senator is, and every state has two. You got to get in the game if you want to win the game. Mustafa?
No, I appreciate Q, highlighting the fact that our vote is powerful, and I'm sort of paraphrasing from his words, and that it is valuable, and that we have to make sure that if somebody is going to receive it, that there is accountability for their actions. And hopefully they are positive actions. And of course, if they're not living up to it, then we find somebody else. And I appreciate you highlighting the fact, Roland, also, that if we find that there are candidates that are not living up to it, if we have actually built organizations and movements, then we can move them out and we can make sure that we have somebody in who's going to actually live up to that. And again, it goes back, I come out of the environmental justice movement. For 40 years, we were pushing and strategizing and mobilizing to be able to get the resources that were necessary to begin the long journey of addressing, the challenges that have been inside of our communities. And now, in this time right now, in this particular administration, instead of having a couple $1 million for work around the country, we now have billions upon billions of dollars. And we've got to make sure that those become actualized. But it is because of all of the incredible work that leaders had done over the years, and not only identifying what the problems were, but also identifying how we get the solutions done, who are the people we need to have in office. And then the other part of it is also utilizing your power when the transitions happen to make sure that you have the right individuals who are running, housing and urban development and transportation and EPA and all these other agencies and departments on the federal level and then on the state level. And that is because you understand the game and you also understand how to pull those levers of power because you have educated your folks and your folks are clear on where you're trying to go and what your priorities are.
See, the thing that I think is crucial here, Julian, when we talk about celebrities and commenting on issues, they also got to do some work.
That part.
You're not going to get anybody to meet with you just because you come up with a black agenda as if black people have never come up with agendas before. Numerous black organizations actually have black agendas. I can walk you through 30 of them. And what do? They meet with elected officials about that agenda. They talk to folks about that agenda. That's what they do. And so that's also what is required, but you actually have to put in the work. And again, I literally told Ice Cube this. And here's the other deal. When Ice Cube was on my show with Alicia Garza, I connected them on a text message. To my knowledge, never got together. So here you had a sister who's an organizer, who was working with Black Futures Lab, and I'm like, yo, cross-pollinate, but if you don't do it, nothing's gonna happen. That's something that also has to happen. You can't have black folks trying to work in silos and not work with other black folks about an agenda.
Well, there you have it. One of the things that's disappointing, Ice Cube didn't say anything wrong per se. You're right, people did get killed, not only walking out of their house, people were lynched because they voted. An NAACP organizer was lynched in Alabama because he dared organize people to vote. A man was killed in Florida because he voted. So, his passion to me is misplaced. But I hear a lot of younger people say they don't want to hear that somebody died for their right to vote. They just don't want to hear it. It's old stuff. It's not old stuff. It's real. Not only that, right now, here today, people are organizing to prevent people from voting. If the black vote was not dangerous, why are they working so hard to prevent us from voting? But voting is not the most you can do. It's literally the least you can do. So when I listened to Ice Cube, what I thought was, this brother is just mouthing off. And now you confirm my impression by suggesting that he didn't have the opportunity to get together with Alicia Garza, who I would have been happy to get with him. What I would want to know from Ice Cube is, so what are you doing? What are you doing to get out the vote? Who are you working with? Are you at least going to some of the community center and asking young brothers and sisters to vote? Are you just running your mouth? Because basically, where I'm concerned, all that brother was doing was running his mouth. And he wasn't running it for good. I could see why people reading between the lines would say that either he was Trumpy or that he was telling people not to vote. That's not what he said. But there are a lot of people who are haters. The biggest challenge we have to deal with, Roland, is to make sure in our community, our Black community, that we're not constantly mouthing off, but that we actually have put the mouthing off, connect the mouthing off to action, to some form of action. So I've been in this game for a long time. I'll be 71 in 3 weeks. So, you know, I was activist from registering people to vote when I was like 8. We had a guy in our community who ran for sheriff, and he put together this, he lost, he was a brother, one of the first Black men to run, but he had these little booklets that said, here's my opponent's record. Then you open it up as blank paper. It was really funny. And we had to use that blank paper for scrap paper for months because we didn't give out enough of those little booklets. But, you know, I've been in this game a long time. There are a lot of people who have agendas, and there are a lot of people who have mal-agendas. What do I mean by mal-agendas? You ain't doing nothing, you just talking.
Got it.
Mal-agendas. So, you know, Ice Cube needs to clean, he needs an intervention. But the thing was 4 years ago, so, you know, let's not trip it so hard on the Black people.
Got it.
Give them some grace.
Joe?
You know, you plant a seed and you get a harvest. So, you know, I don't want to bang on Cube either. You know, the point itself is fine. And simple can be good, but don't sacrifice simple and exchange it for research and information. So in other words, it would be very easy for him or somebody like him to understand that people have died for the right to vote. People have died living in their houses. People have been bombed in churches or whatever else. There's plenty of that's gone on for sure. And you know, the way that I think you want to come at it is you want to come at it in a way where it doesn't look like you're without research. It doesn't look like you're without finding out what it is that you can. He has a great opportunity, him and people like him. It's a great opportunity to inform people of the possibilities surrounding voting, surrounding political involvement. And my sense is there's a few things that he could pick up and learn himself. But frankly, for all of the success that he's had in other areas and for all of the opinions that he had, he's been a guy that's really moved the bar and spoken very loudly for us about some very important issues going back 30, 35 years. But for as long as he's been in the game, the political strategy doesn't seem to be there. So to that point, I think the next thing that can happen, if he wants it to, him and people like him who have resources, who have an audience where people will listen to them, is to be strategic about that, putting that together and taking that goodwill and taking that information and those people and those lists and those emails and those involvements and turning it actually into something in a way that actually grows and supports our community.
And listen, I just want people to also have right information. Over the weekend, I was very critical of Tyrese, who did a video with Attorney Ben Crump, and he was talking about how Asians got a hate crime bill, and they skipped President Biden, Vice President Harris skipped over black people, and I was like, okay, that's a lie. And I literally walked through the people that again, all these other media people like, well, the Asian hate crime, no, that's not even what it was called. It was COVID-19, and the bill applied to all hate crimes. Then you got all the black people who run around here like, well, we ain't got a bill specifically for us. Well, there's no such thing as a bill specifically for African Americans. It doesn't include other people. Well, we ain't never had an anti-hate crime. Yes, we have. There actually have been 4. So you could actually say the Civil Rights Act of 64. You could also say the Civil Rights Act of 1968. You also had, when Bill Clinton was president, a bill specifically dealt with the burning of black churches. If you read the summary, I did a whole video on that on this show previously and broke that whole thing down. Then, of course, you also had the Matthew Shepard, James Byrd Hate Crime Act. Then, of course, you also had the anti-lynching bill that was signed by President Biden. All of those bills are used present day to file hate crimes charges. I had somebody go, well, these bills ain't never been used. You're a lie. We've covered the people who've actually gone to prison on the Biden-Harris tenure by this Department of Justice for hate crimes. And so it's like, stop it, y'all. Just stop it. And so what I say to any celebrity, don't run out here running your mouth and you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Call somebody, do some actual research. And that goes for a whole bunch of people out there as well. because we spend a lot of time wasting time cleaning up folks' lies as opposed to dealing with the truth. In fact, we're going to go to a break. We're going to talk about Project 2025. We come back. I'm going to also show you this black MAGA woman who went on C-SPAN and just straight ass lied repeatedly about Vice President Kamala Harris. This fool even said the moment she became president, she stopped even associating with AKAs. When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause, to long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.